the thing that's really important about meditation is your attention and where your attention goes. And basically, meditations, practically all forms of meditation, involve paying attention to some aspect, either of your body or of your environment or some sort of thought, yeah, but continually returning your attention to whatever it is you're trying to pay attention to every time it wanders off. So in this particular exercise that we've just tried out, the attention was meant to be on the movements in your abdomen, the movements in the muscles in your belly. And every time your attention wandered somewhere else, your task is just to gently put it back to your belly. Now, it doesn't matter that the attention wanders off. In fact, that's what attention always does. It's in the nature of our attention that it does wander. And so meditation really, to a large extent, is an exercise of noticing when our attention wanders off and bringing it back again and again and again. So tens of times, hundreds of times, thousands of times, tens of thousands of times, as you continue to do meditation over the days and months and years that you do it. And then gradually, as time goes on, the tendency for one's attention to wander will start to diminish. And so finally now, just to say a few words about why meditation can be particularly useful for people who stammer. And maybe first of all, it's useful to bear in mind that a lot of the problems that we encounter with stammering are also problems associated with our attention wandering to aspects of our speech or of our communication associated with stammering. So I'm sure many of you have had the experience when you find yourself in a speaking situation that you have a tendency to scan ahead and to be looking at the words that are coming up, and what happens is that you notice that a word is a word that maybe has caused you a problem in the past, or a sound that has caused you a problem in the past. And naturally, your focus of attention gets attracted towards that. And as your attention does get attracted towards these problem sounds, these problem words, or these problem situations, that distracts you from the message that you're trying to get across. It becomes an obstacle. So the better we are able to control where our attention goes, the easier it becomes to make sure that we can keep our attention simply on the message that we want to get across, on the aspects of communication that we have to pay attention to, instead of letting our attention get drawn into these sounds that keep causing us problems. But there's actually more to it than just focusing our attention. Another thing about meditation, and perhaps one of the most basic things about meditation, is that it brings us into a sort of state of harmony with our environment. It's almost like when you're meditating, you start to resonate with the environment around you. And meditation in itself, just simply sitting in the posture, maintaining that straight back, being upright, and focusing your attention and not letting it wander, puts you into this state of resonance with your environment. And as you resonate with your environment, you gain energy from the environment. And it's as if your batteries become charged. You could imagine like an electric car being plugged in, and it gradually charges up. And so if we meditate regularly, we find that we have more energy. And as people who stammer, I'm sure you're all aware that our stammering fluctuates from day to day, very much in line with our energy levels. So if we're tired, for any reason whatsoever, we tend to stammer more. Whereas if you have an abundance of energy, we find that we can more easily face situations. We tend to stammer less. Situations we're in seem to be easier to cope with. They're less daunting. We can face people in the eyes with less difficulty. And so if we have this discipline of meditation, our general energy levels are going to be raised up a little bit. And that rise in our energy levels simply makes everything to do with speech and communication easier. And the stammering becomes less of a problem and easier to control. So in this way, meditation helps us to develop our approach behaviors towards communication, and it reduces our avoidance behaviors. And maybe you may have heard of stammering sometimes being conceptualized as an approach avoidance conflict, where on the one hand, we want to speak because we have a message that we want to get across, but on the other hand, we're afraid of speaking because we've had past bad experiences. We've had past experiences of getting stuck, of stammering, past experiences of listeners not responding positively to us. And so this desire to speak is trying to make us speak, but there's also a desire to escape from the suffering that speech and communication failure can involve. So the meditation, it increases the approach behaviors and it reduces the avoidance behaviors. The net result being that speech and communication becomes easier. And then finally, one other thing that meditation does, and this is an important thing, because we're meditating, we're paying strong attention to whatever it is we've decided to pay attention to, which, whether it be our breathing or to something else. As we're paying strong attention to the sensations, to the raw feelings that come from our sense organs, there's less of an opportunity for our brains to start making value judgments about what's going on. So the more that we're paying attention, the less we're likely to fall into this trap of evaluating what we're doing in a negative way. So, for example, if we're focusing very strongly simply on speaking, on getting our message across, in a similar way to how we focus very strongly on meditating when we're breathing, there'll be less opportunity for our brains to start thinking thoughts like, I don't think my speech is good enough, or oh no, I'm going to stammer and I don't want to stammer, and all of these sort of thoughts that tend to arise and get in the way when we're trying to communicate. And the fewer such negative evaluations that we make about our speech, the less the tendency to block and to stammer tends to occur. So over a longer period of time, the combination of having more energy and of making fewer negative value judgments, it works like oil that lubricates our communication abilities and simply makes everything easier. It makes everything flow easier, and it increases our confidence in our ability to communicate it, and it reduces our tendency to feel overwhelmed and to feel like we have to avoid situations or people or sounds or whatever. The final thing I would say, though, is that meditation is a long-term approach. Yes, it helps in these ways that I've described, but it helps over a longer period of time. It's not that when you start meditating that all of a sudden everything will instantly just get better and easier and your speech will get better. But gradually, as you develop a regular routine of meditation, and by that I mean if you can do some meditation every day, and ideally at the same times every day on a regular basis, as the weeks go by, you will start to notice the sort of changes that I've mentioned. And then little by little, hopefully, things start to slot into place, and speech and communication works easier. Abdominal breathing is one form of meditation. And I just introduced that basically because it's a type of meditation that's really well known, that you'll come across in lots of different situations if you go to different meditation groups. And so abdominal breathing involves focusing your attention on the movements in your abdomen, and also it combines that with a type of breathing which has a metabolic effect which is quite relaxing. Other forms of meditation involve focusing your attention on other things. I mean, you can focus on thoracic breathing if you want, but that's not a relaxing form of breathing. That's a form of breathing that you may want to engage in before performing some sort of physical exercises or going for a run or something like that. That can also be meditation, and that's fine too. Or you don't even have to focus on your physical body. You can focus your attention on a candle or something like that that's in the room that you're in. Or even you can focus your attention on an idea. And every time your attention wanders off, you can return your attention to that idea that you're focusing, or an image. The important thing is that you decide what you're going to focus on, and whenever your attention wanders off, you pull your attention back to whatever it is that you've decided you're going to focus on. So there's a lot more flexibility, and of course in your everyday life you might decide to focus on different things at different times. So while you're doing the washing up, you may decide to focus your attention entirely on the washing up. While you're doing the ironing, you might focus entirely on the ironing. These are all meditative practices, or they can all be meditative practices. But personally, I find when I've got nothing else in particular to do, and I simply want to sit, I find that abdominal breathing is a really useful type of meditation. It largely because of its relaxing effect, and also I think because it's a fundamentally different way of breathing to the sort of breathing that we often find ourselves doing. And so that difference, in a way, it acts as a constant reminder that, yes, I'm doing this as a meditation practice. And mantras are a bit like breathing. They're more than just the sounds. They have a vibrational quality to them. And if you're reciting that mantra over and over again, the same mantra, a bit like abdominal breathing, I think it can it can put you into a state of resonation, or you start to resonate with your environment. And again, in this way, it's replenishing your batteries in a way. It's giving you this boost in energy. Like, you know, we can get energy from different sources. We get energy from the food we eat as well. But meditation is a different form of energy. It's like a vibrational energy that comes into us while we meditate. And certainly mantras are a very effective way of getting that energy. But of course, the other thing about a mantra is you have to really focus your attention on that mantra. And it becomes a similar exercise. You know, naturally our attention wanders off. You're reciting the mantra, but your attention starts to go off. You start you start thinking about having a cup of tea afterwards or something like that. And as soon as you notice, you pull your attention back to the mantra. And you just do that again, over and over and over again. And gradually, over time, your attention is able to stay with that mantra, and you get the benefit, is the vibrational energy that you get from the mantra increases, and this increases your energy levels overall and makes everything slot into place. So yeah, that's a great alternative. My experience of that sort of breathing came from Zen. Vipassana is very similar. And in fact, we have a group of people who come here to meditate, and some of them do Vipassana meditation. But I know that Vipassana involves more than one type of sitting meditation. So I imagine that this abdominal breathing is just one form. But really, the short answer is that I'm not sure exactly what types of meditation they do in Vipassana. As for Osho, my memories of Osho, I've read lots of his books and find them really very interesting and entertaining. One of the things about Osho is that he draws from very many sources involving many different types of meditation. And so definitely in any of the Osho communities, they will do some abdominal breathing, but that would only be one out of a range of different things that they do. And as I said, in response to the previous questions, really the most important thing about meditation is not so much the outer form of it, but simply this process of paying attention and drawing the attention back to whatever it is that you've decided that you're going to pay attention to, whether it be your abdomen or whether it be something else. Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
I mean, in very many ways, the problems that arise with human beings are associated with the capacity we have for our attention to go back into the past, or for us to start anticipating the future. I mean, a lot of our problems in life arise because of our intelligence, really. We're great at anticipating the future, and very often that helps us. That helps us to predict things that we have to be prepared for and ready for. But sometimes these capacities, like the capacity to anticipate, actually doesn't help us. And I think this is a situation with people who stutter, where a lot of our stuttering starts, well, a lot of moments of stuttering start with an anticipation. What happens is we remember having had a difficulty with a particular word or a particular situation, a particular sound. And then we anticipate, we think, oh God, that's this sound again, or this word again, or this situation again. And we start anticipating all of the things that can go wrong. And that capacity to anticipate in that particular instance is not helping us at all. It'd be better if we didn't anticipate. It would be better if we were simply paying attention to the present moment, like you say, Harish. And so meditation is a great way of training us not to be too clever, basically, to actually be more. I mean, one of the things I've become aware of over the years as I meditate is we tend to presume that things that have happened in the past are always going to continue happening in the future.
Right.
But the truth is that although most patterns repeat, and it is true that most patterns do repeat, they don't always repeat. There's a time when patterns stop repeating. And if we're all tied up with our anticipations of the future and our memories of the past, we might not notice that actually things have changed, and that actually many of the things that we're frightened of, or many of the things that caused us problems in the past, are actually not such big obstacles now. But in order to realize that, our focus of attention has to be on the present moment. And that's an important reason for doing meditation. There's no doubt that people who stammer have had many traumatic experiences related with their speech. You know, I can think of lots throughout my past where I can remember situations as if they happened yesterday, situations from school where I had to speak in front of the class, situations of people putting the phone down on me, situations sometimes of people running away from me or threatening to call the police, you know, things like this, they stay with us, yeah. And so meditation is well recognized now as a valid form of therapy for these sort of traumatic experiences that people accumulate. I mean, not just in relation to stuttering, but in relation to other aspects of our lives too. And yes, meditation can help us to integrate those memories so that they no longer cause us to re-enter those traumas, basically. Well, I think there could be many reasons for this, and in fact, there probably are a variety of different factors that all come together that often make it more difficult to speak to strangers and to speak to family members or people that you know well. I should point out that if you look at a large number of people who stammer, you actually see all patterns. I know some people who stammer who actually find it easier to talk to strangers and more difficult to talk to their family, although the majority find it more difficult to speak to strangers. I think a lot of it must go back to our past experiences again. The people that we speak to in our lives, of course, everybody responds to us in slightly different ways. Some people are much more tolerant of our stammering. Other people are not so tolerant. One of the things about strangers is we just, at the beginning at any rate, we don't know how they're going to be. So there's a big unknown there. And then if we don't know, then we tend to maybe make predictions based on the majority of our past experiences. And if the majority of our past experiences with strangers have been difficult, then we'll probably predict that this is going to be difficult. And if we predict that it'll be difficult, then it will be difficult. And the same with family. I mean, I used to find it pretty difficult to speak to my dad, but very easy to speak to my mum. And I think that very much reflected the different ways in which my mum and my dad responded to me when I spoke. So yes, I think it boils down to individual experiences, and okay, so that was the first bit, why these experiences are different. In terms of what we can do about that, well, that's a question to which there's no one single answer, I think. I think we have to look at our own personal situations and see what situations are causing the most problems to us, and look at ways in which we can learn to handle those situations more effectively. And that could involve all sorts of different things. It could involve sorts of systematic desensitization. It could involve cognitive behavioral therapy, maybe, looking to see whether our predictions are really accurate or whether they're out of date, maybe because our personal circumstances might have changed. It's always going to be different. But whatever the case, meditation is a sort of general thing that in a way can help in a much less focused way, but in a general way, it can help in all situations and with all people. So I think that's about as much as I can say about that. I'm sure that helps in every way. So metta meditation, I think, is a great thing to do. I mean, it's quite a substantially different way of meditating to the one that I described. But one thing I'm conscious of is that a lot of the difficulty we experience when interacting with other people is that we are concerned about how they're going to react to us, whether they're going to reject us, whether they're going to get frustrated or fed up of waiting or whatever. Now, there's not so much we can do directly to influence how people respond to us, but there's an awful lot that we can do about how we respond to other people. And I think that to the extent that we're able to adopt a compassionate attitude towards other people in general, that will come back to us insofar as the way that people will respond to us will mirror the way that we respond to other people. And even if that doesn't happen, it's a good thing to do anyway. there's no doubt about that. One of the practices I tried, and I've done this also over many years, is I try to imagine that ultimately we're really all just one person. We're all the same person, really. It's almost like we're all different incarnations of the same person. And so however you're treating other people, you're actually treating yourself like that too. And vice versa, yeah. So metta meditation, I think, can work on that sort of level where what we give out, we ultimately get back. So yes, it's a great form of meditation, and it's certainly a good one to be practicing.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, all of you. Thank you. It's great to be with you again, and I enjoy coming and seeing you all at your conference online. And okay, so I hope you enjoy the remaining parts of the conference. I don't know how much longer it goes on for, but maybe see you next year.